I wanted to make a new version of my pliable chair, which I've built a while ago, and this came after a friend of mine told me that instead of making it as a lounge chair, I should try to make it as a chair for a desk. I thought that was a great idea, and I had a piece of plywood left over from a previous project that I could use for it. And since I only had this piece left, I also had to make sure that everything fits on top of it because I really had no chance of trying it again. The previous design also was quite chunky. It had the backrest connected to the legs, so it took up a lot of space on the plywood board itself, making it not so efficient to cut it. And for this design, I did a lot of redesigning to make sure that I have some more pieces that I can distribute on top of the plywood board. This way, I was able to fit the whole design, and I was ready to start cutting all the pieces on the CNC. Using a downcut mill bit so the plywood edges look very clean and giving it a sand while it's still on the CNC. After all the pieces were cut, I noticed that the backrest was actually not moving. So I found myself this steaming machine and I started steaming the backrest. This happened because the previous design I was designing for a 15 millimeter plywood, and this is done in an 18 millimeter plywood. I thought I was smart enough to just adjust it by Pi mal Daumen, and it didn't work out. So the steaming machine was my last hope. And actually, this was working quite well. The only thing I was scared about is that it might separate the pieces afterwards, that the steam is separating the layers of the plywood. And then after everything was steamed, I cut myself these distancer pieces and I bent the part already in place and connecting it with some screws so it can dry in a resting position as I wanted it, giving it a little bit more steam because it was not coming all the way around and I really wanted to avoid cracking at this point. Putting some screws in some spots that I know later won't be seen. At this point, I was very happy that I still managed to do the whole bending. It actually came out a lot better than I expected in the beginning, even moving more than I thought. And I just continued sanding the rest of the pieces, making sure that all the edges are fine, that there's no splinters coming out, that also the surface are looking good. While the backrest was still drying, I started the assembly of the legs. For this, I only had to put together a few pieces for the front part and a few pieces for the back part. And since I had the tolerances already figured out for these connections from a previous project, everything was coming together quite easily. Repeating the same process for the legs of the back, which was exactly the same. They were even coming together a little bit more easy, just needing a few pushes by hand. A single hit with the rubber hammer, and I had these small pieces of plywood cut out, which I am using to secure the joinery in place. Giving it a first little check to get an image on how the whole piece would come together. On the next day, the backrest was dry enough to continue with the assembly. So I just gathered all my pieces again, made sure that I have them close by when I needed them. And I knew that the assembly is going to be quite easy since I had already pre-assembled all the parts. So I just had to take out these screws here, take out these distancer pieces. Luckily, the backrest was still moving quite a lot, so at this point I was very happy to see that this is coming along quite well. I added a little bit of white glue in these holes to work in some of these dowels, which I'm using just to have a little bit of a better connection in between the legs and the backrest when I'm putting them together. For the assembly of all the parts, I figured it would be the easiest if I just lay down the back on the floor, add the white glue to the legs directly on the sides that are going to be attached to the back part. I squeeze together the back with my feet so I can just put on the legs from the outside and driving in the dowels in both sides. making sure that everything is coming together well. And then I repeat the same process for the legs of the front. Again, I'm pushing together a little bit the back part so I can put the legs in from the outside. After all the pieces were assembled together, I just needed to add clamps all over the legs. So for each leg and each side of the leg, I added two clamps to make sure that really everything is coming together very tightly. And then I just needed to wait another day for the glue to set. On the next day, the glue was dry and I could start removing all the clamps. At this point, I was becoming really curious if this chair will actually be comfortable and if the backrest will be moving a little bit. And the only step that I had left to do is to put down the sitting part. For this, I just used a little bit of hand hammering, then a little bit of rubber hammering since the hand hammer wasn't strong enough, and a little bit of fine adjustments to put this plate in place. And then it was finally time to give this chair a sitting test.
Wow.
And as you can hear, I was very satisfied with the result myself. The back was still moving enough for it to be comfortable.
Wow, I'm impressed how comfy this chair is.
Here you can see a little bit better how flexible the backrest was in the end. I really enjoyed working on this project and improving on my previous design. I think overall the chair turned out very well and the backrest is a lot more comfortable than I first expected. I will be using this chair as my own desk chair and will give it a long-term test. I already have some ideas on things that I could improve, but that will be up for the next project. Let me know what you think und tschüss.